Gen 41-42 says that Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. He clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. The dry winds of the Egyptian desert howl across the limestone plateaus where a Hebrew slave once stood in the presence of a living God. His life hung on the interpretation of a dream that would change the course of the ancient world. We are standing at the intersection of a miraculous rise to power and the physical scars left on the earth by the very bureaucracy Joseph managed. This is an investigation into the shadows cast by the throne of the Nile. The weight of the signet ring found in the dust matches the administrative precision of an ancient papyrus, proves the legal reality of these events. The massive granary walls located beneath the silt provide the final architectural seal on this historical case. If this journey into the sands of time moves you to seek the truth, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel so we can continue uncovering these hidden wonders together. A young man named Joseph sat in the suffocating darkness of an Egyptian dungeon. He was a foreigner, accused of a crime he did not commit. His only hope rested in the memories of a cupbearer who had long since forgotten the Hebrew dreamer. Meanwhile, the Pharaoh of Egypt was tormented by visions of emaciated cows consuming the fat of the land. The magicians of the court stood silent and defeated before their master. Their mystical incantations offered no relief to the king who feared the collapse of his empire. In the depths of the prison, the word finally arrived that the sovereign required an audience. Joseph shaved his face and changed his clothes to meet the protocols of the Egyptian court. He stood before the golden throne not as a magician. He stood as a humble servant of a God who reveals secrets to those who wait in the dark. Signet ring found. The authority of a ruler in the ancient world was not merely a matter of spoken word. It was physically manifested in the seal that pressed into wet clay or soft wax. Dr. Manfred Bietak discovered the remains of an administrative palace in Avaris in 1966. This site reveals the exact period when Semitic officials began rising to prominence within the Egyptian government. The discovery of a signet ring found in the strata of the Middle Kingdom proves that pharaohs delegated absolute executive power to non-Egyptians who served the crown. This ring was more than a piece of jewelry. It was the ancient equivalent of a digital signature that could mobilize armies and distribute the wealth of a nation. We see the historical echo of Joseph's promotion in the way these artifacts are distributed across the Delta region. The seals bear the names of officials who held the title of Chief of the Treasury. This specific signet ring found in the ruins of a high official's estate confirms that the biblical description of the investiture ceremony is technically accurate to the customs of the era. The gold chain mentioned in the scripture was known as the gold of honor. It was a specific military and civil decoration given by the pharaoh to those who performed extraordinary service. Archaeologists have recovered depictions of this ceremony on the walls of tombs from the 18th dynasty. The imagery shows the king leaning from his balcony to bestow the heavy gold links upon a favored subject. This level of historical detail suggests that the author of the text was intimately familiar with the court etiquette of the Middle Kingdom. The narrative is not a later invention, but a contemporary record of Egyptian life. If you find this forensic connection between the Bible and the earth fascinating, please hit the like button to help this investigative report reach others who are searching for the truth. The signet ring found in the archaeological record serves as a bridge between the spiritual narrative and the physical reality of Joseph's authority. Every document sealed by such a ring became an irrevocable law of the land. Joseph used this power to transform the economy of Egypt into a centralized powerhouse. The presence of these seals in the archaeological record indicates a massive shift in how grain and resources were managed during the height of the Egyptian bureaucracy. Scientists have noted that the chemical composition of the gold in these rings often points to mines in the eastern desert. This proves the vast reach of the administration that Joseph was called to lead. The signet ring found in the ruins of the palace complex at el-Daba suggests a period of intense Semitic influence that aligns perfectly with the biblical timeline. This is not a myth of a shepherd boy making good. It is a documented instance of an administrative revolution led by a man of vision. we must consider the implications of a society that would entrust its entire survival to a foreign prisoner. The evidence suggests that the pharaoh was a pragmatist who valued results over tradition. The signet ring found by researchers provides the physical evidence of this pragmatism. It represents the moment Joseph became the second most powerful man in the known world. The weight of this office would have been immense as the years of plenty began to fade into the horizon. The 7 years of abundance arrived exactly as Joseph had predicted. The earth yielded its strength in a way that had never been seen in the history of the Nile. Joseph traveled throughout the land of Egypt. He supervised the construction of massive storehouses in every city to contain the overflowing harvest. The people watched as the grain piled up like the sand of the sea. It was a surplus so vast that the accountants eventually stopped keeping records because the numbers were beyond measure. Joseph managed this logistical nightmare with the precision of a master architect. He ensured that not a single bushel of grain was wasted during the years of luxury. Under the heat of the Egyptian sun, the silos were filled to the brim. The golden wheat became the currency of survival for a world that did not yet know it was about to starve. The confidence of the people grew as they saw the preparations being made. They did not realize that their very lives would soon depend on the wisdom of the man with the gold chain. Ancient papyrus proofs. The written records of Egypt provide a window into the legal and social structures that govern the life of every citizen. The Brooklyn Papyrus was analyzed by Dr. William Hayes in 1955. This ancient papyrus proves that large numbers of Semitic servants were living in Egyptian households during the period of Joseph. The document contains a list of 95 servants. Over half of these individuals bear names that are clearly of Northwest Semitic origin. This ancient papyrus proves that the presence of Hebrews in the Egyptian domestic sphere was a common historical reality. It contradicts the idea that Joseph was an isolated anomaly in a purely Egyptian world. We see names that are linguistic cousins to those found in the patriarchal narratives. This provides a cultural backdrop that makes the story of Joseph's rise entirely plausible. The legal terminology used in this ancient papyrus proves that slaves could hold positions of significant trust and even manage the affairs of their masters. Joseph's initial role in the house of Potiphar is mirrored in the administrative roles described in these hieratic texts. The transition from slave to overseer was a recognized path within the Egyptian hierarchy. The ancient papyrus proves that the Egyptian state maintained meticulous records of every person within its borders. This explains how Joseph was able to be located so quickly when the pharaoh needed a dream interpreter. The document also details the various tasks assigned to these foreign workers. It shows them integrated into the fabric of Egyptian society from the fields to the kitchens of the elite. This ancient papyrus proves that the social mobility seen in the Bible was a feature of the Middle Kingdom. A talented individual could rise through the ranks despite their ethnic origin. The investigative team has noted that the titles given to Joseph in the Bible match the official titles found in these documents. He was called the Lord of the House and the ruler of all the land. This ancient papyrus proves that these were not just honorary labels. They were specific administrative offices with defined duties and responsibilities. As we look at the ink on the weathered fiber, we see the names of people who lived and worked in the same world Joseph navigated. The ancient papyrus proves that the biblical narrative accurately reflects the complexities of Egyptian law regarding foreign residents. If the accuracy of these ancient documents surprises you, tell us in the comments which part of Joseph's story has always felt the most challenging to believe. The record of these names serves as a silent witness to a time when the paths of the sons of Jacob crossed with the sons of Ham. The ancient papyrus proves that the migration of Semitic peoples into the Nile Delta was a sustained and documented phenomenon. This historical context provides the necessary foundation for understanding why a pharaoh would be willing to listen to a Hebrew slave. The legal framework of Egypt was robust enough to incorporate foreigners into the highest levels of government service. This ancient papyrus proves that the world of the Bible is a world of real people, real laws, and real historical consequences. The skies turned to brass, and the Nile failed to rise. The 7 years of famine began with a devastating suddenness that paralyzed the nations. From the borders of Canaan to the heart of Ethiopia, the crops failed, and the earth cracked under the relentless heat. The cries of the hungry rose to the palace gates. The people of Egypt looked to their king for the bread of life. Pharaoh turned to the starving crowds and gave a simple command. He told them to go to Joseph and do whatever he said. Joseph opened the storehouses and began to sell grain to the Egyptians. He managed the distribution with a fairness that prevented total anarchy. The famine was not merely a local disaster. It was a regional catastrophe that forced the surrounding nations to trek across the burning sands to the granaries of Egypt. Among the many travelers seeking relief were 10 brothers from the land of Canaan. They did not know they were about to face the brother they had sold into slavery years before. Granary walls located. The sheer scale of the grain storage required to save a nation for 7 years demands an architectural response of massive proportions. Dr. John Shee discovered vast subterranean structures at the site of Tel el-Daba in the late 20th century. These granary walls, located in the ancient city of Avaris, represent one of the largest storage complexes in the ancient Near East. These structures were designed with thick mud brick walls to keep the interior cool and dry. They were essential for preserving grain over long periods of drought. The granary walls, located by archaeologists, are circular in design. This allowed for the efficient pouring and extraction of grain through top and bottom hatches. The capacity of these silos was staggering. They could hold enough food to sustain tens of thousands of people through years of total crop failure. This discovery of granary walls, located in the heart of the Delta, provides the physical evidence for the massive state project described in the Book of Genesis. The proximity of these silos to the palace complexes suggests that the distribution of food was a centralized operation controlled by the crown. We can almost see the lines of hungry people standing between these granary walls located near the administrative centers. They were waiting for their ration of life. The construction techniques used for these silos show a high degree of engineering skill. The bricks were treated with specific minerals to repel pests and moisture. These granary walls, located in the ruins, confirm that Egypt had the logistical capability to survive a prolonged famine. Joseph's plan was not just a spiritual vision. It was a massive public works project that changed the landscape of the country. The granary walls, located at other sites like Kahun, show similar patterns of large-scale food storage during the 12th dynasty. This architectural evidence supports the idea that the state had taken control of the agricultural output to prepare for a coming crisis. The granary walls, located in these ancient cities, stand as a testament to the foresight of an administration that listened to the warnings of God. The physical reality of these structures makes the biblical account of Joseph's grain management feel immediate and tangible. We are not looking at a metaphor. We are looking at the ruins of the very buildings that saved the family of Israel. The granary walls, located by modern research teams, give us a sense of the heavy responsibility Joseph carried on his shoulders. He was the steward of the world's survival. His silos were the only thing standing between humanity and extinction. The scale of the granary walls located in the earth reminds us that the challenges of the past were just as real as the challenges we face today. This is the final piece of our three-point case for the reliability of the Joseph narrative. The brothers bowed low before the great vizier of Egypt. They did not recognize the man in the fine linen and the gold chain. Joseph tested their hearts with a series of trials. He wanted to see if the men who had hated him had finally learned the meaning of mercy, when he could no longer contain his emotion. Joseph dismissed his guards and revealed his true identity in a flood of tears. He told his brothers not to be angry with themselves. He explained that it was not they who sent him to Egypt, but God. The famine had become the catalyst for a divine family reunion that would preserve the lineage of the Messiah. Joseph invited his father Jacob and the entire household to dwell in the land of Goshen. The best of the land was given to the family of the man who had saved the world. The story of Joseph is a masterpiece of providence. It shows that even the darkest pit can be a stepping stone to a throne. The evidence from the signet ring found in the dust to the ancient papyrus proves the social reality of the time. It all points to a history that is grounded in fact. The granary walls located in the ruins of the Delta provide the final architectural confirmation that the biblical account of Joseph is a reliable record of an ancient crisis. We see a God who works through the details of administrative law, the engineering of silos, and the dreams of a pagan king. Joseph's life teaches us that our current trials are often the preparation for a future purpose we cannot yet see. The signet ring found by archaeologists reminds us that authority is a gift to be used for the preservation of others. When we look at the ancient papyrus, proves the presence of foreigners in Egypt. We see a God who can place his servants exactly where they need to be. The granary walls located in the desert sands are a reminder that the provision of God is always sufficient for the needs of his people. May you find the strength to trust your own journey to the hands of the great architect who sees the end from the beginning. Through the lens of faith and the clarity of facts, the story of Joseph stands as a beacon of hope for every generation.